For my final project, I conducted a literature review for the purpose of better understanding how art educators might integrate utopian ideals into their curricula. In doing this, I investigated several influential philosophers and writers that have written about utopian education, and I found that many of the popular utopian theorists had similar ideas that held education as central to the creation of their ideal utopian society. Additionally, I also investigated two theorists that I will discuss at the end of my presentation that saw art education as pertinent to their utopian education ideal. So for the sake of not boring you too much, I will briefly discuss some of the scholars I investigated and their ideas that I see as influential for the creation of a utopian art education curriculum. Ernest Bloch, who lived from 1885 to 1977, was a German philosopher that believed in educated hope as a form of oppositional utopianism. In many ways, Bloch believed that educated hope was necessary for the transformation of institutional power and the creation of radically charged politics grounded in broad-based civic participation and popular decision-making. Frederick Jameson was inspired by Bloch's ideas of educated hope. Jameson states, quote, "To maintain that everything is a figure of hope is to offer an analytical tool for detecting the presence of some utopian content, even within the most degraded and degrading type of commercial product." Paulo Freire argued that schools should help students to form solidarity amongst one another so that they might fight against the oppressive aspects of school life. Freire felt that public education should become more of a political process that rejects the authoritarian structure of most schools. In their article, authors Fishman and McLaren state, "We understand utopias after Freire and Bloch as providing the conceptual horizon for the development of democratic schooling. This horizon of possibility could also be described as a critical educational utopia." In investigating the ideas of Lewis Mumford, author David Conrad summarizes Mumford's 4 stages of regional planning, arguing that the continually evolving natural and man-created environment, both in space and in time, is the core of Mumford's course of study, of which the structure of society and the dynamic process of personality and culture are integral parts. Lewis Mumford believed that manual labor should be an integral part of a child's education. In this way, he felt that people could learn by working in parks, gardens, and forests that exist outside of the public school realm. Henry Thoreau envisioned an alternative society that begins with the fundamental principle of simplification. In summarizing Thoreau's philosophy, author Maurice Gus writes, "He argues that only by leading a completely simplified existence, in which people substantially reduce their needs and desires and systematically renounce luxury goods, can the increasing damage to and alienation from nature be stopped." Much like Mumford, Thoreau believed that environmental issues could not be learned or fully understood by reading a text, but by experiencing them firsthand through natural observation. Ebenezer Howard's 1898 publication, Garden Cities of Tomorrow, can be seen as an influential utopian learning strategy in that it conveys how the design of human environment can potentially change the habits of society. In Garden Cities of Tomorrow, Howard proposes the creation of new suburban towns of limited size surrounded by agricultural land, or what Howard called the perfect blend of city and nature. According to Gus, for Howard, green education is not a matter of elaborate curricula and detailed educational programs, but consists in creating conditions that make it possible and attractive for citizens to consistently make ecological friendly choices. Much like Howard, Bernard Skinner's utopian educational model incorporates green education into the daily lifestyle of its participants. According to Gus, in Skinner's ideal society, there are no official schools with a traditional class and grade system, but rather flexible courses where everyone, young and old, can participate as they please. In looking at Skinner's model of education, people are taught by fellow community members or receive a, quote, permanent education that is leisurely in nature and primarily takes place in workshops, gardens, and fields. Much like Thoreau, Howard, and Skinner, Kallenbach's novel titled Ecotopia stresses the importance of environmentally friendly behavior that can be learned at home, but that is stimulated by well-adapted school courses. According to Kallenbach, the emphasis in the teaching program is not on paper media, but on the development of artistic capabilities, the study of plants, animals, and trees in the open field, and the learning of survival techniques in wild nature. In Kallenbach's model, students would begin learning ecological topics at an early age. including botany and zoology, and would be provided hands-on learning that would consist of expeditions into the wilderness and lessons on fishing and cooking. In 1891, William Morris wrote News from Nowhere. In this book, he envisioned a world where all forms of labor, even the most commonest, were attractive. Work and art and nature blended harmoniously, and everybody was seen as an artist. According to Morris, art extended well beyond those matters which are consciously works of art, and believed that only when art is social and organic, only when the individual subordinated his freedom of hand and mind to the cooperative harmony of the community, only when the artist produced goods for use, subject to the demands of the public, rather than succumbing to the affection and effeminacy of the production of beauty for beauty's sake, only then, according to Morris, will art take up where it left off with the decline of the Middle Ages. Oscar Wilde emphasized the values of freedom from any form of government and from compulsion in work, and links these notions to the idea of universal individual self-realization, which is associated with the diffusion of art into all aspects of life. Morris and Wilde would agree that one of the reasons why capitalism ought to be opposed is because it stifles the artistic impulses latent in all human beings. Wilde also believed that in a libertarian, socialist, or anarchist society, daily work would be done by machines, wealth distributed equitably, and people would have unselfish respect of the individual autonomy and creativity of others. In John Dewey's 1927 book, The Public and Its Problems, he famously argues for revitalizing democratic culture through the practice of community. One of the things that Dewey was trying to observe, as his focus moved from education back to philosophy, was the effect of technological change upon educational systems. He imagined the community school as a reenactment of the best aspects of the pre-industrial household. In his focus on a moral life, Dewey believed that art was a way to combine and exemplify democracy, stating, "The artist makes art available to everyone, modeling transformative processes based on personal and public experiences that society must embrace to foster the growth of its citizenry." Dewey argued, if we believe in the survival of our species, one that we must protect, preserve, and celebrate, we should look to art as a document, a catalyst, a transformative process that causes us to act morally and with care and kindness. In conclusion, there is much to be learned from the ideas of previous utopian thinkers. For this project, I'm also hoping to further investigate examples of modern-day utopian schools, as well as how these ideas might relate to creating curriculum for arts-based communities.